So, one of the conversations that we have to have is this political violence. The rhetoric, the verbal assaults. I mentioned when we were talking with the chief earlier that death threats seem to be normal. They are almost common. And we just, what I'm seeing on social media, there's a mix, right? There is a pointing finger blame game going on, but there are also people on all sides of the aisle saying, we cannot do this. Democrats are saying it, this is not okay. There are Republicans saying this is not okay, we cannot do this. And I could not think of anybody better than Tami Pyfer to talk to us about this. Tami is a friend of mine, and I actually am on her advisory council for the Dignity Index. She's the Chief External Relations Officer and co-creator of this Dignity Index. And I wanted her to come on and talk to us about what happens now. Tami, thanks for joining us this morning.
Well, Holly, it's really an honor to join you during this really difficult time, and I appreciate you thinking about the Dignity Index and these types of conversations. So thank you for having me on.
So very first question is, what now?
Yeah, it seems like we keep doing rinse and repeat, right? And escalating, and we see this happen, and we all pay attention, and we all condemn, this violence. We condemn the language in the culture, in the media that surrounds us that leads to this violence. And then within a few days or a week or so later, then it seems like we're back in the same place. One of the thoughts that occurred to me yesterday was that we condemn political violence, but we don't condemn the language, again, that's surrounding us in the culture on social media. We don't condemn that language that's leading to political violence. And we react. We react after the fact about talking about how bad this is, instead of challenging this language when we hear it on social media, challenging ourselves. And this is a big point we make with the Dignity Index, looking at our own language and asking, how are we contributing to this so that we can be more preventive versus reactive in this space? And I think this is a good time for us to pause and say, what role am I playing in this? Am I part of the problem?
Tami, can you educate our listeners, and I guess admittedly me as well? Holly was talking to me about the Dignity Index, but can you just describe what that is?
Yeah, and I invite you and other listeners, if they can, to go to our website. It's dignity.us. We've got a page on there, a resource page that has a copy of the index. So the Dignity Index is a scale. It goes from 1 to 8 that measures different levels of contempt and different levels of dignity that we hear in our public and political speech. And those, the speech or the rhetoric represents a mindset that's behind that speech. So the bottom of the scale, the very bottom, a 1, is the highest level of contempt. I mean, I should say you can't go any lower than that. The bottom level is when we are saying, those people are not even human. It's our moral duty to destroy them before they destroy us. That's a 1. That's a call to violence. That's a call for genocide. And then you move up on the scale where a 2 is, those people are evil and they're going to ruin everything if we let them. This is the next step just above political violence. And yet if you look at those words, those people are evil and they're going to ruin everything if we let them. That's the language that we see in political campaign finance emails. I get them all the time from all over the country. It's what we see on social media, regardless of, which party we belong to, which cultural group we belong to. We say this all the time without, I think, understanding that you are just one step away from people who hear this rhetoric. And if those people are evil and they're going to ruin everything if we let them, by hell, I better do something about it. And people hear this as a call to violence. A 3 just above that, where the good people, they're the bad people. It's us versus them. 4, you're getting a little bit closer to the dignity side of the scale, but you're still on the contempt side, and you're saying, we're better than those people. They don't belong. They're not one of us. 5 is your first step into dignity. Look, the other side has a right to be here. They have a right to be heard. They belong here too. 6 is when we start talking to each other. I'm going to talk to the other side. I'm going to look for those things we have in common, those values and interests we share. We have a great quote that we used in our training materials from Senator John McCain during 2008 campaign with then Senator Barack Obama, who said, look, I believe this, Senator Obama believes the same thing. That's a 6. 7 is when we start talking about the things that we don't agree on. We're going to look beyond those things we have in common, and let's start talking about these things that we don't agree on. We're going to fully engage the other side. We're going to talk about the values and interests we don't share with an open mind, admitting that we might be wrong. Maybe we made a mistake, or changing our minds. We don't ask people to give up their values, their passions, or their principle, but we ask them to give up the contempt that comes along with that sometimes. And I think it's this contempt, honestly, that's forced upon us by the culture, by what Arthur Brooks calls the outrage industrial complex. We call it the contempt industrial complex. But at a 7, you're going to put that aside and say, I want to hear you out. I want to hear why you think so differently than I do. I like to think that at level 6, we're finding common ground. At 7, we're finding higher ground, because we're putting all these other things aside and saying, how can we solve our problems together? And then 8 is the very top of the scale. This is when we can say, look, every one of us is born with inherent worth, so we treat everyone with dignity no matter what. We heard this language from the LDS President Nelson last week, that everyone has dignity and deserves to be treated with dignity.
Tami, can you help us understand where but they did it first, or but they did something XYZ that validates or gives me permission?
Yeah.
Where does that ring?
So when you start to blame, first of all, blaming, scapegoating, the minute you start to say those people, and that's kind of a cue word for us, if you say, but those people, you're automatically on the contempt side of the scale. So you're saying we're better than a 4, we're better than those people.
Therefore,
3, we're the good people and they're the bad people. So you're at a 3 and a 4 when you start to say, but those people do it, but those people are evil. So that justifies me, or my side didn't do that. It's those people. You're at a 3 or a 4 on the index. And we teach this language just to help people understand that all of us use that language, or all of us have those thoughts. I'm not exempt from having those thoughts. I've learned to not say them out loud, but I'm still learning to control them in the first place. When you see these things happening, it's human nature to try and find someone to blame, because it's painful for us. And in order to manage that pain, I want to find something to alleviate that, and blaming someone else and using contempt for someone else alleviates that pain for me momentarily. But Holly, to answer your question, you're at a 3, you're at a 4 on the scale.
Tami, I love the scale. I've actually downloaded it since we've been talking. It seems like as a country, we are somewhere between a 3 and a 4 right now. And I know that the scale is based on sort of individuals, but what do you think is happening right now? And why are we at that low of a level where in the past I wouldn't have put us there?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is the different type of media that we have, in social media, entertainment. We talk about building a culture of dignity where people that adopt these principles and make a commitment to not be that person, right? We want to change ourselves first. And we want to start expecting that from the people who entertain us, the people who inform us, the people who represent us. And there's such a proliferation of sources now of information that we didn't have in the past. That whole landscape has changed. So it's easy to get online and be almost force-fed information and commentary and language that you would have never heard before, you would have never gone looking for, and now it shows up in your inbox or on your feed, whether you like it or not. I think that's one of the problems. Another problem we've talked about, and my colleague Tom Roschert, who's the lead architect of the index, along with my other colleague Tim Schreiber, he wrote a beautiful piece on this yesterday that you can see on our website, where he talks about this desire to belong. We all want to belong. And more, the price for belonging in my group means I have to hate the other side. The leaders of my group or the perceived leaders of my in-group on, again, media or social media, they're telling me I have to hate so-and-so to belong to this group. And that desire to belong is so powerful that it's hard for us to stand up and say, actually, I can belong to this group and I don't hate those people.
Yeah.
One of the things we talk to people about across the country are families who have such a variety of political identities in their family. And so I do too. I have 5 kids with 5 different political affiliations. And when someone says, I hate those Democrats, it's like, okay, you hate a couple of my kids. No, well, actually, I hate, those libertarians. Well, you're hating another one of my children. Well, I hate, the Republicans. Well, you're hating 2 other members of my family. Which, take your pick. Which family member of mine do you hate? Because I refuse to hate any of them. And when you say that and you look through that lens, this is America. We have this diversity about us. And I think that this is what's harming our relationships, our family and our work and our community relationships.
Thank you so much, Tami. Yeah, we've been speaking with Tami Pyfer. She's the Chief External Relations Officer and a co-creator with the Dignity Index. We're going to continue, you and I, talking about this when we come back after the break. So we're talking about what do you do with political violence, right? And I'll give you an example. Here's something that I saw yesterday. This was actually from Connecticut, not our state at all, of course. But it was the Young Democrats of Connecticut and the Young Republicans of Connecticut, and they issued a joint statement, and this is what they said. What happened at Utah Valley University this afternoon is unacceptable. We reject all forms of political violence. There is no place in our country for such acts, regardless of political disagreements. We are praying for Charlie Kirk, his family, and all those at Utah Valley University impacted by this horrible act as the community processes and recovers. Right? It's that type of when we say we've got to come together and we need to not only condemn political violence, but we have to stop it, and we have to stop the speech that we just heard from Tami Pyfer. I think it's this type of thing that needs to happen. And the reason I asked Tami, well, where do you rank on the scale if you're saying, yeah, but they did it first, and she said you're at a 3 or a 4 if you're saying that, is because unfortunately I see that too online.
Yeah, and that statement, that joint statement that you just read, is what we need right now. That's what this Dignity Index is about, and that's the problem that we're having. Because even yesterday, there was some shouting and some consternation on the floor of the House after they had a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. Then somebody jumped up and said, well, why aren't we having a moment of silence for this individual?
Other people.
And then someone else said, well, this is all because of you. And, I mean, it's gotten completely out of hand. And, boy, I hope that this is a precursor to some things we're going to see.
I think we need to acknowledge that there has been an increase. It feels like at least an increase in politically motivated violence. We did have shootings in Minnesota, and those happened to be Democratic lawmakers. We had I think the governor's mansion was set on fire. Josh Shapiro, he's a Democrat. We had the shooting of a healthcare executive, and if you remember, after that happened, he was gunned down on the street. There were people who were cheering that.
Yeah.
Nah, that's not okay, right? We can't be cheering when quote unquote our side takes out the bad guy. That's not okay.
Yeah, our own Commissioner of Public Safety spoke this morning about this very issue.
Last night I communicated with Erica. The family's devastated. As a Commissioner of Public Safety, as a father, as a husband, I can only imagine what that family's going through. The heinous event that happened yesterday is not Utah. This is not what we're known for. Over the past several weeks, we've seen this state come together to help families in mourning, come together as a community to show what Utah is known for a state of character, of service, of camaraderie, of a neighboring feel. We will not stand for what happened yesterday. We are exhausting every lead. We have every officer invested in this, every investigator, every local agency. The outpouring of support from the law enforcement community has been astounding. We are investing everything we have into this, and we will catch this individual.
So just since we started this segment, I don't know, 4 minutes ago, there's been another 2,000 shares on the individual that the FBI would like to talk to.
Yeah, and I hope that people are looking at that and are considering looking at their own social media or cameras or anything they had at that event yesterday and saying, hey, did I know this person?
Yeah. Look, I have to tell you, too, this is from Martin Luther King III. So this is Martin Luther King Jr.'s son. And he said this online yesterday: violence, no matter the target or justification, is never the answer. The shooting of Charlie Kirk is not only a tragedy for one man, it is a wound to the soul of our nation. It may silence a voice, but it cannot change a heart or heal a nation. While I strongly disagree with Charlie Kirk on most issues, we all agree that political violence is inexcusable. Disagreements must be addressed through civil conversations and free, fair elections. And look, we have to point out, today is 9/11.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the day that 24 years ago we had a huge loss of life because of people who wanted to do harm to our nation. And remember, it was the day after we had a whole movement for a while, 9/12, where we came together as a nation. And look, there's some conversation there too. What if you were Muslim, right? That was a difficult time for them as well. But part of what I remember about that is the sense of belonging. And that was exactly what Tami pointed out.
Right.
We all want to belong. We want to belong so much that we're sometimes willing to hate people that our group hates just so that we can be in.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed following that scale. I downloaded it. This is the Dignity Index. Tami Pyfer was with us in the last segment to talk about that. It's something I think we need. I mean, we took a giant step backwards yesterday as a country, and let's face it, as a state, what happened should not have happened. And it still bothers me more than I can describe that it happened in Utah. And I know that's selfish. I know that's horrible, but
we're supposed to be better than that.
I don't
right?
like that this happened here at home.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just it just breaks my heart. You know, would I have gone to listen to Charlie Kirk? Probably not. Do I agree with what he said? Most not. But do I support the First Amendment and the fact that he has a right to say it? Absolutely.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right.